Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. I think I've had enough time to recover, and I need to clean out this mug, so just bear with me while I get this shit sorted out, and then after a nice cup of tea or a nice cup of coffee, whatever I fancy, we can get this show on the road. As far as the whole stroke thing is concerned, just to go off on a bit of a tangent for the time being, I've kind of made that thing as kind of an inside joke, as I said before, and I guess I want to briefly expand upon it before I start out on this video. But basically, the whole thing, I know how serious strokes are. They're just as serious as a bloody heart attack, quite frankly, with no real pun intended here. I understand that there are people who have lost relatives and loved ones, and there are people who have gone through strokes. So I will reiterate again, I apologise if that offends anyone. But the story behind it is basically, I ended up using it after I was with a group of friends who I met on Discord, and being gamers we were spending our time playing games, having loads of fun and all that shit. But then, I think it was when me and someone with the username of Renix Raven, we were on a game called 7 Days to Die, a sandbox survival game, and at some point I went, and then her mod in her Twitch chat, because she was streaming on Twitch, was like, is he having a stroke or something? And then every time I kept doing it from there on out, it was like stroke number 1, stroke number 2, and even Raven joined in on that shit. So that's kind of where the whole story of that came from. But I fully appreciate if anybody's been through that. Right, 2 minutes aside from that, let's get on with the main part of this video. Right, I feel much better now. So, let's talk traditional bricklayer. Let's talk about the farmers. And let's talk about the council tax. So, first off, traditional bricklayer. Now, I had made a video impulsively in the past, and I even got that bit wrong. I didn't get anything right in that other video at all, because I was so bloody impulsive. But I can safely say there will be no mistakes on this one. So apparently, when I mentioned in the video before, the one that ended up deleted, scrunch it up, throw it away and all that shit, I had said that there was a person in a wheelchair who was told to fuck off. Well, it turns out it was traditional bricklayer who was told to fuck off because he demanded that he was given the chance to do a speech when we were at the 1st of February protest. Now, have I said I would love the opportunity to do so? Yes, I have. But I deep down, I accept that if I'm not on the speakers list, if I'm not one of the people who deserves to go backstage, then I will respect that. And that I have no right whatsoever to make demands of anything. I've sometimes said it would be nice if I had a chance to speak, but I didn't always bank on it. You know why? Because it's not my decision. But traditional bricklayer thought otherwise. He thought that if he shouts an octave or two high enough, and joins the opera singing choir. Anyway, if he sang and shouted an octave higher or two, that he thought he'd be able to speak up on stage. He honestly thought himself as a patriot. Turns out this guy was actually quite the showman and a bit of a narcissist, which is a shame because those kinds of people truly are a black stain on the movement. The very movement I actually thought was coming to an end. Well, maybe I got that bit wrong as well. And as I said, I'll openly apologise when I f*** up. Because at the end of the day, that's what being a man's all about. Or a woman, to some extent. Because you have to be able to admit your mistakes. Because otherwise, what kind of person are you? A robot. But I digress. He ended up trying to get on stage, tried to get backstage as well. And then when the stewards who are stroke number one, who were organising this event, ended up seeing what he was up to, they told him to do one, because they weren't having anybody who was giving a tirade of abuse to people and was trying to basically demand that they have the entitlement to go up on stage. No one here is entitled to anything, Bricklayer. Not even me. I wasn't entitled to go up on stage with Tommy Robinson over in Manchester, in Salford, on that fateful day when Tommy Robinson wanted to become an MEP. But you know what? I was given the opportunity to. And I'm eternally thankful for that shit. Because at the end of the day, Tommy did me a personal favour. I didn't even ask for it. And yet he did it for me anyway. Because he understood people like me with autism, or just ordinary working class people, were being persecuted by the state. And they know that all too well. And while he was initially incorrect about having problems at home, that bit was correct, and then problems at work, which while he wasn't correct with that at the time, it was almost like he predicted the future. Because what happened? There were 3 companies I ended up having beef with, 2 of which dismissed me for my political views, and the third one who, well, they basically wanted to constructively dismiss me, put simply. But I'm not here to talk about my past. I'm here to talk about those 3 subjects I mentioned at the start of the video. So Bricklayer thought he was entitled to get up on stage. He's not entitled to jack shit. He may be working class, but that does not automatically grant stroke number 2. That does not automatically grant you the right to go on stage. All that does is it showcases you do have that banner of working class above your head, much like a lot of these people here that attend these events. So don't think for a second, just because you're working class, that entitles you to go up on stage. If they want me on stage, they will tell me, we want you on stage. And at that point, then I might happily accept. But at the end of the day, doesn't matter who you are, you can't go making demands. Period. Now, moving on from that, we now come to the council tax. The council tax. Oh dear. And nearly having my 3rd stroke in 8 minutes. But I digress. The council tax. People are so angry right now with the fact that their ability to put their vote in the little ballot box has been taken away from them, that now some of these people are venting their frustration on the councils themselves by going to the banks, or writing to the banks, I should say, handing in their letter, and basically cancelling their direct debits. Now, I want to be clear on this. I am not encouraging people to go and do this, as it can lead to God knows how much. Debt collectors, enforcement action. It can lead to, in some extreme cases, it can even lead to prison sentences. But what I will say is what I said as far as not wanting a revolution and all that shit, but anybody who feels like that's the only option they have. I completely understand why these people have decided not to pay council tax, quite frankly. I completely understand, because after all, if their vote's been taken away, then what's the point? Because after all, if they put their money in then, it's basically showing them that we condone what they're doing to them. Oh, sorry, what they're doing to us. No, you know what I mean. But basically, they feel like they're being screwed over by the councils and screwed over by Keir the traitor Starmer, so they feel that they want to basically stop the direct debits to the councils. I can't exactly blame them, but I'm not going to condone that shit. That's where I draw the line, I'm afraid. But I wish those people good luck. I really do. I wish them good luck in their fight. And maybe This will be another message to Keir the traitor Starmer that he's fucking with the wrong people. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. And why would it? The establishment being defied by the indigenous people. I need a moment. The councils, the government, being defied, thinking that they have the power over the people. No, the people give them that power, and we have the majority of that power. And they do well to remember that, because we can easily remove these traitors from the houses of treachery. I mean Parliament. Or maybe I was right first time. Just like that. That's the thing. We are not fucking around. We will not tolerate dictator governments that think they have the right to take the piss out of the British people, violate our human rights, and take our money without giving us the right to vote. Like I said, I don't condone what the people not paying council tax are doing, but I completely understand why they're doing it. But anything that happens to them, they have themselves to blame if it does happen. So, the enforcement action, the prosecution from the government, criminal records, sentences, and all that shit. Unfortunately, I kind of want to say we have to do things by the book, but then I have to remember half this shit was written by the traitors themselves. That's the way I look at it. But as said, the bottom line on that one is I completely understand why these people have decided they're not going to pay council tax, and I wish them good luck in their little protest against the councils and the government. I hope it goes well for them, but I suspect realistically, and to be devil's advocate, that things are going to go downhill for them. But I hope it doesn't. And then, of course, finally we get to the farmers. The farmers, the farmers, the farmers. Well, they're certainly not the granny harmers, that's for sure. Like Keir the traitor Starmer is, and this nonce government, Labour government. Or again, maybe I was right first time. But these people in the nonce party, the nonce government, they have always been afraid of the farmers because they're now starting to really tear things up, metaphorically speaking. And Keir the traitor Starmer has been seen running or hiding from these bastards. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, should I? Running from the farmers. So it's just a matter of the first word that comes to mind and it just... bleh, basically. But he's running as far away as he can from the farmers because he knows damn well that those farmers mean business. They are not fucking around at all. But what would Keir the traitor Starmer know of listening to his own people? I mean, let's face it. He has been about as receptive as a half-bent 50s antenna, quite frankly. He is a man who has been serving himself and his Davos and WEF masters, and King Charles is another WEF shill. And I can tell you right now, and I'll be perfectly blunt about this, King Charles is certainly not my fucking king. Maybe King Dick, but certainly not my king. And I am not afraid to say that. If he wants to be known as our king, then he needs to prorogue Parliament. He needs to dissolve Parliament. Because he can clearly see the damage that is being done by this sectarianist bastard that is Keir the traitor Starmer. I mean, the way I look at it, I wouldn't be surprised if he did a Justin Trudeau on the farmers. Do you remember back then in lockdown when those truckers decided to go up the highway in defiance of Justin Trudeau, the ex-president who resigned before he could be fired? Well, he might do the same thing here. I mean, he might do everything he can to try and freeze the bank accounts of the farmers. It wouldn't surprise me at this point. Because after all, he is even lower than a snake's belly, and probably even lower, I would go as far as saying, as Justin Trudeau. That's the way I look at it, at least. I hope it doesn't come to that, of course. But I suspect if he does that, it's going to be like trying to put out a wildfire with a water pistol. It's just not going to fucking happen. Like, Keir the traitor Starmer doesn't understand that when you push against one of the strongest parts of British society, when you push against the very people who provide food on our tables, who make sure we can eat, who make sure we can actually enjoy good produce, who can actually showcase to us we don't need to be attached to those unelected bureaucrats in Brussels, you better not be surprised if they decide to come after you with the whole 9 yards. Because let me tell you something. These farmers, they've been through hell. And I'm not just talking about the one time where they had to give a few turnips to the devil because it went down the wrong way. But these guys have had to go out of their way to do God knows how much work to make sure they're stroke number 3, that their soil is fertile for cultivating and growing stuff. They've had to look after their animals. They've had to look after their houses. They obviously have to look after themselves because otherwise they won't be able to attend their farms. They have to showcase any of their sons and daughters how they make their living by farming off the land. Because at the end of the day, if it weren't for them, how do you think some of this fresh produce would be reaching our doorsteps or our supermarkets or whatever? Ask yourselves that. No one asked you. Fuck off. Anyway, who would actually go out of their way to bring these food items to us? It does beg the question. They need to understand this treacherous establishment. We're not fucking around anymore. We are not messing around. And we will always stand by our farmers. We who are of this movement for Tommy Robinson. And yeah, I have given a bit of squit to Paul Thorpe and Richard Inman by saying, how do we go about doing this peacefully? Can we do this peacefully anymore? I do accept that. I've been a bit of a little shit. I will say that much. But understand, I say this deep down because I really want to see some answers as to how we can continue pushing forward peacefully, how we can continue pushing this movement without pushing ourselves off a cliff. Because I think the way I look at it is, as I've said before, and I will repeat this, I don't think celebrating and singing Kumbaya and singing the YMCA, I don't think it's the right answer. That's the way I look at it. I think Richard Inman and Paul Thorpe and Maya Toosey and all the organisers of these events, they need to wake up. And I say that in the context of they need to get real. They need to start doing stuff that actually showcases to our establishment how much contempt we have without smearing it with silly songs like the YMCA. I think we need to do stuff that showcases to our establishment we're getting serious and we've had enough. Because if they keep seeing us sing Kumbaya, my lord, we may as well all have come along with our pom-poms like, you go, Tommy Robinson, you go. Yeah, like, what the fuck is that going to achieve? Like, I know I can sit here and laugh about it, but seriously, what is that going to achieve? They're going to look at us and they're going to think, oh look, it's the circus over there. When they will be projecting the real circus is in the houses of treachery. The real circus is in the nonce party. The real circus is with Keir the traitor Starmer, and I'm sure everyone will agree with me on that one. We cannot continue going about these protests the way we are. Try and do it peacefully, by all means, but we cannot resort to what we've been doing in the past. Period. I don't want it to descend to violence. I don't want it to descend to anarchy. I don't want it to come to an overthrowing of the government. I've said this many, many times without fail. And I have said I will not condone it. What I will say, however, is that there is a way to do this, but we cannot do it. We cannot expect it in good faith that this stuff will work unless we get rid of the namby-pamby songs. We need to start showcasing to them why we're serious, why we want our country back, why we want a control on our borders, why we want complete sovereignty from the unelected bureaucrats and the ECHR. We need to showcase that to them, and we need to do it in a way that shows them how angry we are without giving the mainstream media what they want. That is the cold, bitter truth. No more Kumbaya, no more YMCA, no more Sweet Caroline. We need to get serious. I'm not saying that we need to be more depressed than a grieving family at a funeral. But what I am saying is that this celebration is clearly sending the wrong message to the establishment. That they can keep on doing what they're doing, that they can keep on flicking away on their typewriters and what have you, and they can do it without a fucking care in the world. Make them care. And the farmers can help us with that as well. The farmers know how to get shit done. They know how to disrupt them. Hell, they are doing a very good job of disrupting Keir the traitor Starmer and his little nonce party, and they're doing a good job stopping any interviews, quite frankly. So we need to start doing the same. We need to take a page out of their book, and we need to start showcasing how serious we are. Remember, we've been consistently pulling around 100,000 plus people at these events. Every single time these events have gone by, I'd say worst case scenario, we've had 60, 70,000. But for the most part, we've had 100,000 people turn up. 100,000. Just think how much we could do with 100,000 people showcasing their contempt. We could literally do a ring around the houses of treachery and 10 Downing Street, and we could tell them exactly how we feel about those traitors. We could showcase to them exactly why we've had enough. But we're not going to do that if we continue the way we are. The bottom line is you cannot bang your head against the brick wall and expect change. You cannot keep doing the same fucking thing and expect a different result each time. Not happening. We have to get serious. And I think, as I said before, I don't condone what the people not paying council tax are doing, but I completely understand why they're doing it, and I can't wholly blame them for it. And the farmers, they're taking a step in the right direction. They're not singing Kumbaya, they're not singing the YMCA, they're not going around prancing around with their little pom-poms and what have you. Oh God, I'm losing my voice. Oh my God, that was awful. Okay, I think I'm a bit better now. They're not going around with their pom-poms basically trying to celebrate and what have you. They are showcasing to the government why they've had enough. And if the government is going to screw over the farmers, then the farmers will do everything they can to screw over the government. And as far as the bricklayer is concerned, it's a shame. I will say it's a shame that I actually thought that he was a genuine guy. I am honestly disappointed that this guy has had a bit of a checkered past. No, I'm not talking about the time he lost 4-0 to someone on checkers. No, he has had a checkered past. And the fact that he's trying to reinvent himself as a patriot by lowering his voice a couple of octaves or two is a bit disappointing. I will never condone what he did to the stewards, how he was giving them abuse because he thought he was entitled to have a speech. You cannot expect, just because you're a part of the working class, that you have an entitlement to go up on that stage. Hell, here's the thing. I'll go back to that point very, very briefly. When I was up on that stage in Salford, bear in mind, I had never asked for it prior. Never. Hell, I never even had it planned to go down to Salford. But when I got a message from someone basically saying that if you come down, Tommy will pay your expenses. He point blank said that. I mean, I would have felt bad. I would have felt bad regardless, because it's like a catch-22. It's like, I don't want to be seen to be doing it for the money, but at the same time, he's insisted that I come along and all that. So it was like, well, all right, I guess I have to go along. That's what it boiled down to. If it weren't for that, I probably wouldn't have been turning up there, quite frankly. And even got a nice little stay in a hotel, which I can't complain. But it wasn't just about the money for me. It was actually more courtesy, more than anything, heading down to Salford, because I would have felt bad if I refused, because it would have probably thrown a spanner in the works, I felt. But that's enough about that. The way I slice it, I'm dying already. Anyway, the way I slice it is, this establishment is really messing around with the wrong people here. But we, unfortunately, have not taken full advantage of it. We've been too busy throwing out our pom-poms and celebrating and singing "Kumbaya, my lord," when what we should be doing is showcasing to the people who are still fast asleep exactly why they should join the movement and exactly why they should feel contempt towards our establishment. Because this establishment needs to be reminded, the power doesn't belong with them. It belongs with us. And people shouldn't fear their governments. Governments should fear their people. And the moment the government doesn't fear its people, then it is undoubtable whatsoever that this very country has a very serious problem.